over
Right.
the rumors and the speculation, although there are some pretty juicy ones still out there. How about this one? So Washington last week had this big group of prospects in at the same time, including 3 or 4 quarterbacks, one of whom was Jaden Daniels. Well, according to some reports, Jaden Daniels wasn't happy that it was everybody. He thought it was going to be just him, and that supposedly he has soured on Washington. And also J.J. McCarthy's odds, you can bet on anything in Vegas these days, J.J. McCarthy's odds of being picked by Washington, number 2, have gone up dramatically. What do you make of all of it?
Man, I'll tell you, there are so many thoughts just off the top of my head about the generation of players that we're creating. And to no fault of their own, honestly, but this whole, like, take the NIL, for instance. If the going gets tough, I can pack my stuff and leave mentality. All of a sudden, they throw a curveball at you, and you get offended. And we're developing a society of victims. And it's interesting. I was up at CU the other day, kind of doing some coaching and stuff, and I thought about transfer portal, and I thought about what we're creating in these kids. And I don't mean to get really deep on you, but like one of my favorite scriptures in the Bible is Philippians 4:13. And for those who don't know, Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And it's probably one of the most misapplied verses in the Bible, because it's basically saying, hey, there's an assurance of a goal, right? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And people use it as this assurance, but they don't read Philippians 4:12, where Paul says, I know what it is to be both full and hungry, to abound and suffer need. And I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. So essentially, it's not about assurance of a goal. It's about, regardless of the situation I find myself in, whether I'm full or hungry, whether I'm rich or poor, whatever the case may be, that I can have assurance that things are going to be okay. And so that's the proper context. So it basically takes away pity and fear and victimhood and puts the responsibility back on you that regardless of those things, things are going to work out. Things are going to be okay. So to me, it says that fear cannot break me unless I give it permission to break me. Circumstances cannot break me unless I give them permission to break me. And that's what that scripture says to me. It removes comfort as a requirement for contentment. And so the kids today, they grow up in this world of, if it doesn't work my way, man, I'm just going to pack up and leave. And I will tell you this about just my own career. Man, I went through position to position to position, injury to injury to injury. And I look back on it, and I'm thankful for all those things because they helped me put perspective on the game, helped me grow up, and helped me realize, that all those different issues at the time, they were devastating. But that's what kept me in the league for 12 years. That's what educated me on the game. All those different experiences. I would tell you what, I've never learned anything about myself in the good times, Mike, because I was too busy patting myself on the back. It was during the tough times when I learned how tough I could be. How much I could continue to push and to grind and all those things. And there's a part of me that feels sorry for this generation of kids, because if the going gets tough, they can just pack up and leave.
Now, to be fair, the report is that Daniel's agent wasn't happy with it.
Right, but
if Daniels himself was fine with it, then why would his agent be unhappy with it? So it's fair to speculate that Daniels also wasn't happy with it.
I understand that that's
and that the agent may be just taking the heat for Daniels.
I understand that that's what we do, but here's a guy that left Arizona State, right, and went to LSU. So and again, no fault of their own, right? This is the rules, and this is what we have created and we have established. And so, kids are taking advantage of those things. But
would it be a red?
I honestly
would it be
think
a red
it's
flag?
tougher on them.
Would it be a red flag for drafting a guy? Is this like the movie Draft Day where you're like, oh, nobody showed up at Bo Callahan's birthday party?
Yeah,
this kind of thing.
right.
I mean, is it?
I don't know that it's I don't know that it's a red flag, but it is. All these things are concerns. You take all these things into account. How a guy reacts and how a guy responds, and and how he faces that kind of quote unquote competition. Do you become the alpha in that situation, or do you shrink? Right. The one thing I don't want in any sport is the guy who wilts like a flower in the August heat. I don't want that guy. And anyhow, and again, I'll go back to saying this, and I can't say this enough. No fault of their own. This is the system that they've been given. Like, can you imagine growing up in today's society with social media, basically telling you, here's what you're worth, right? You've got to get to the point where, it's the old, bees don't concern themselves with wolves don't concern themselves with the opinion of sheep.
Bees?
Well, there's a bees one too. Like, a bee doesn't take time to explain to a fly why honey's better than shit. Something like that.
Huh.
I can go
Did
from.
you just make that up?
No, I've heard it's something of that
something
nature.
you heard?
I can go from quoting scripture to talking about poop and bees and flies and shit.
You are versatile.
Yeah, there is no question. There is no question.
You are versatile.
You are correct, sir.
You are correct. The guy just is like dazzling you with Philippians, and then he's talking about bees and fly shit.
Yeah.